everyone, I'm Glass with the Angry Toads, and I'm here to bring you the third list in our top 7 horror movies for various decades. This episode will be discussing the 90s. We hope you enjoy our list.
Number 7.
Released in 1997 and directed by Paul Anderson, Event Horizon follows the crew of the starship Lewis and Clark as they investigate the disappearance and reappearance of the starship Event Horizon. As the Lewis and Clark crew boards the ship, they soon find out that the Event Horizon had more than a basic mission. They find this out through the horrific video logs and the crew themselves experiencing some horrors of their own. Another sci-fi movie that was surprisingly more horror than sci-fi. The horrible scenes that this movie created were like no other. I personally always thought that this was just a general sci-fi space movie, but boy was I wrong. The horrors of not only being trapped in space, but also being haunted by horrific visions is enough to make me want to jump out an airlock. This movie did its job in horrifying us.
Number 6.
Released in 1990 and directed by Rob Reiner, Misery is a screen adaptation of Stephen King's novel by the same name. After a writer gets into a car crash during a blizzard, he is rescued by a nurse who happens to be his #1 fan. The writer soon finds himself in a dangerous game of survival as he navigates the nurse's psychotic tendencies. Yet another Stephen King movie brings us more psychotic people. Kathy Bates was amazing in this film and really made us afraid of being rescued by someone or being famous in any way. Being trapped in a house with a psychotic fan is not our idea of being saved, especially if it's our #1 fan. So excuse me while I go continue to be a nobody.
Number 5.
Released in 1996 and directed by Andrew Fleming, The Craft follows a young woman with supernatural abilities as she attends a new school and finds others with similar abilities. The group comes together to give themselves everything they've ever wanted, but that much power comes with grave consequences, and the young girls find themselves in a mess of trouble. People that have powers never seem to go well, especially if those people are teenage girls. Forget about fitting in high school, you now have to be afraid of getting hexed. Or if you find yourself in that strange group, you still have to worry about getting hexed. Teenage girls are so petty and spiteful, but hopefully not all of them have dangerous powers.
Number 4.
Released in 1995 and directed by David Fincher, Seven follows two detectives as they investigate a string of crimes tied to these 7 deadly sins. With each murder, the detectives are getting closer and closer to the perpetrator, but soon find themselves too close for comfort in these murders. This film's portrayal of the 7 deadly sins in the form of murder victims was grotesque but fantastically done. With each horrific scene the detectives find, we get more pieces to the deadly puzzle. This all comes to a head with the climax of the film that leaves us asking, what's in the box?
Number 3.
Released in 1997 and directed by Jim Gillespie, I Know What You Did Last Summer follows a group of friends who on a drive home one night run over a man crossing the road. In an attempt to hide this, they cover it up and vow to never speak of it again. Unfortunately, they're not the only ones who knew of what happened that night and are soon hunted down by someone out for revenge. This film was quintessentially the 90s. It's a wonder that any teenager or young adult survived at all with all these serial killers hunting them down all the time. Covering up a murder and having to hold that secret can eat at you, but most of us don't have a serial killer after us because of it. This film gave us more reasons not to trust anyone, including our own friends.
Number 2.
Released in 1996 and directed by Wes Craven, Scream is the first in the serial killer slasher franchise. After the brutal murder of 2 young high school students, the school is closed down and the students party. Unfortunately, the killer isn't done with his bloody reign as more students are hunted down and fight for their lives. The 70s brought us Michael Myers, the 80s Jason Voorhees and Freddy Krueger, but the 90s brought us Scream and the iconic mask that came with it. While it's the same generic plotline as any other serial killer movie, Scream still gave us the frights as we had to once again look all over our shoulders and be wary of strange phone calls that could result in our death.
Number 1.
Released in 1991 and directed by Jonathan Demme, Silence of the Lambs and our number one choice for the 90s horror movies, introduced us to former psychiatrist and cannibal Hannibal Lecter as he toys with an FBI agent. This FBI agent, named Clarice, is on a mission to capture Buffalo Bill, who is on the loose and in possession of a young girl. Unfortunately, the only person that can shed some light on this killer is Hannibal Lecter himself, but the information gained from him comes with a price. Arguably one of the best performances, Anthony Hopkins terrified us with his portrayal of a deranged, cannibalistic serial killer. While the movie's focus was not directly on him, his performance really stood out as something terrifying. Buffalo Bill was no laughing matter either, and this film was great all around, and it deserves our top spot for the 90s. So there you have it. Now you know how we feel about 90s horror movies. Do you agree with us? Disagree? If you haven't seen any of these films, we highly recommend watching them. We'd love to hear your thoughts, so let us know down in the comments. Thanks for joining me, and don't forget to like and subscribe if you've enjoyed. I'll see you all next time.